Hello again. Last two episodes began with odd and sudden geomagnetic disturbances. This one will follow the pattern. This image of aurora during the daytime was taken in Norway on 18th of October at 16:35 UTC. Around this time, POES satellites recorded that the auroral power grew to 130 gigawatts. That's a very high value. Couple hours earlier, soon after 11 UTC, there was another burst of auroras with similar power. But around 4 UTC, the auroral power broke the records by reaching 141 gigawatts. That's a sign of strong geomagnetic disturbance. The impulse is visible clearly on Canadian magnetometers, however only at mid-latitudes. At the same time in Europe, ground magnetometers recorded only at tiny disturbances. But around 17 UTC, the geomagnetic field took a much stronger hit. In some stations the jolt reached 600 nanoteslas. Right now, when I record this movie, the disturbances are still pretty strong and I can hear the changing frequencies in my ears. And again, on stations placed at higher latitudes, the disturbances are much weaker, and the orientation of geomagnetic field is different. No, I didn't sleep this time, and the KP index was raised to 4 twice during the day. Considering the strength of auroras, it should reach 6. Now comes the funny part. There is nothing on the readings from ACE satellite what could explain all those geomagnetic instabilities. There were some shifts of the IMF orientation, but they don't match with the times when the jolts took place on our planet. BZ didn't reach more than -5 nanoteslas. There is no explanation of those auroras. Look at the Antarctic ryometers. Crazy. Those are not errors in data. And now, readings from Arctic magnetometers, which don't have nothing to do with the events in Antarctica. In some regions the jolt reached -1000 nanoteslas. In Kiruna, strongest disturbances took place around 17 UTC and K-index reached 6. But now take a look at this. On 20th of October, soon after 6 UTC, the auroral power reached enormous value of 159 gigawatts. Although it seems that NOAA didn't notice this event, KP index was elevated to 5 couple hours later. Auroral power didn't hit more than 150 gigawatts at this time, but it reached more than 100 couple times. BZ component of the IMF remained unstable during this time and it can't be blamed for the geomagnetic instabilities. Only BX was stable and oscillating around -7 nanoteslas. The only possible explanation is the impact of a coronal host stream. As the velocity started to grow, and the density went down. As you can see on those Canadian magnetometers, the impact was very geo-effective. And it was felt over the entire globe. Those are the readings from ground magnetometers in Europe. This is a good moment to look at the magnetic polarity of our star. Right now, Earth is being influenced by a stream of fast solar wind emitted from the coronal hole on the right side. The hole is actually moving right now out of the Earth-facing disk, but soon we can expect another impact of a coronal hole stream from the second coronal hole, which is currently placed directly in the middle of the disk. Wild field lines mean that both those coronal holes have positive polarity. Dashed line shows the magnetic equator. It separates fields with different polarities. This coronal hole is much stronger and it's the main positive magnetic pole of the entire Sun. This means that the neutral sheet of heliosphere is placed perpendicular to the direction in which Sun is rotating. To say it shortly, magnetic polarity of the Sun is flipped by 90 degrees. But I said it a couple times already, didn't I? Check out the geomagnetic disturbance which took place at 1937 on 21st of October. The scale grew to 500 while it normally shows 50 nanoteslas. This is the cause. As you can see, the Norwegian magnetometers took couple strong hits in last couple hours. Problem is that at this time there was nothing on ACE readings what could explain those disturbances. Especially for Robert, who complained lately about the lack of octopus in my latest movies, a beautiful magnetic tentacle which passed over Southern California. It is visible mostly in water vapor, but it affects as well higher cloud layers. But much bigger one can be seen right now over northern Atlantic. Another perfect example of electromagnetic forces affecting the atmosphere can be seen over northern Africa. Or Europe. Look how the recent geomagnetic activity affected the neutral gas temperature in the ionosphere. Pretty red color covers most of the planet. One day later, the situation doesn't look any better. Possible cause of such high temperature can be seen on European magnetometers, where another strong geomagnetic jolt started around 15 and ended around 18 UTC. During this time, some disturbances were recorded in Canada, but they were much weaker. Impulse was without any doubts recorded over bigger part of northern polar cap. However, at the same time, on the opposite side of the globe, Antarctica, there is no sign of any activity. Here, geomagnetic jolt took place 2 hours later, around 18 UTC. Or more like 19. Kiruna ryometer recorded 2 penetrations of cosmic plasma, but their times don't match with the magnetometer readings from the same station. Where another disturbance is taking place right now. Instead, Kiruna ryometer data is matching perfectly to the geomagnetic disturbances in Canada. Don't ask me why. Of course, like in most of such cases, there is not too many ACE readings which would explain nicely those geomagnetic disturbances. Actually, there is only one event which fit to the ground magnetometer readings. This can be the source of the jolt from 15 UTC. BZ was during this time negative, -6 nanoteslas, what is not too impressive value. However, the phi angle, which actually shows the magnetic orientation of IMF in the Earth's surrounding, make a sudden flip right at the time when the jolt appeared on Norwegian magnetometer charts. Despite all the current factors, the seismic activity seems to be low. However, I have to mention the 5.1 magnitude earthquake for one reason. Although I couldn't find any interesting data on ISWA, which would be somehow connected with the quake, there is something on EUMETSAT what is worth to mention. The spinning air mass, which I was showing you couple minutes earlier, decided to migrate towards northeast. At the time of quake, the low pressure system was moving directly over the epicenter. Of course, it is still too early to make some serious conclusions, but it is for sure some interesting coincidence. Don't you think? For the end, I need to mention another change which affected bigger part of Earth's magnetic field. This is how looked the temperature of neutral gas in the ionosphere around 1 month ago. And this is how it looks currently. As you probably noticed already, the highest temperatures can be seen mostly over polar regions. Before, the northern pole was heated much stronger than the southern one. But in last couple weeks the situation changed, and now the ionosphere is much warmer over southern pole. Exactly the same process can be seen on the nitrogen oxide monitor. In September, its density was visibly increased over northern polar cap. Now, almost all particles moved to the southern hemisphere. If you watched my previous movies, you should remember that I was talking quite often about weakening of our southern magnetic pole, geographic north. as the electric potential was much stronger over southern hemisphere. But during the year, strength of magnetic field is changing. In winter, North Pole is the dominating one. In summer, Southern Pole is stronger. When we'll look at Joule heating monitor, we'll see that Northern Hemisphere is already affected much more by the space weather conditions. And because the air circulation depends in big part on electromagnetic forces, we can expect that the polar vortex will soon follow the same pattern and move to Northern Pole. The process began already, and the strength of air circulation at highest levels of atmosphere is visibly growing over Northern Hemisphere. I will finish this episode with a view of Schumann resonance monitor, where another low frequencies burst appeared couple hours ago. And I'm still unable to guess some possible cause of this disturbance. Class dismissed. Be safe. Peace.